Ma'am, thank you so much for taking out time for this interview. My project focuses on patriarchy and how feminism still plays an essential role in our society today. I really wanted to get your perspective as a history teacher since you have seen how gender roles have evolved through time. So
Sure.
we shall begin. My first question would be, how would you define patriarchy in a way that students can easily understand?
All right, so patriarchy is a system where the primary power and dominance in roles like political leadership, moral authority, and property control is in the hands of men, and women are basically subordinate to men. So it is ruled by the father structure that shapes laws and social norms.
That was a very well defined definition, ma'am. In your opinion, what are some subtle ways patriarchy exists in everyday life, even in schools?
Yeah, so it's very simply put, it is there in the mental load that is expected of girls, like emotional labor, organizing. In our school, although the uniform is same, but in many schools, most of the schools, there is gendered segregation in school uniform policies. Also, what I've observed, especially in higher classes, boys are encouraged more to take up STEM subjects, sorry, and girls are encouraged towards humanity. So there are subtle biases in teacher, where the teacher attention can also enforce such norms.
Yes, ma'am, I completely agree. These are some small things, and your answer was definitely eye opening of how these small things
Yeah.
are changing. How has patriarchy evolved over time in India's history? Do you think it has changed a lot or just taken different forms?
So, yes, obviously, as a history teacher, I can definitely say that practices like sati, although has been abolished during the time of the Britishers, thanks to our social reformers, but there are definitely certain things that are manifesting deeply. Like there are ingrained biases that are happening when we talk about economic opportunities, political representation. Definitely, there is a preference for the male child still. So there are different but less subtle but visible forms that are there.
I
Yeah.
completely agree, ma'am. That's just patriarchy is not disappearing, it's just taking different forms.
Yeah.
Ma'am, why do you think some people, especially young men, hesitate to call themselves a feminist?
Because men have this skewed perception that feminism means anti-male movement. So that is not the thing. Because these men, some of them, and unfortunately not some, there are many, especially in your generation as
Yes.
well, that they associate feminism with this very radical, aggressive, negative, perpetuating this stereotype in media also is there. So these are very traditional viewpoints. Men in general have a fear of judgment. They don't want to lose their social standing. They don't want to be labeled as weak.
Yes, ma'am.
So the common adage that boys don't cry is still very much deeply ingrained. There are certain one or two advertisements that come into my mind when I think about, don't cry like a girl, you're running like a girl. So why is this stereotype still there is something that we need to think about. So definitely there is this inherent fear. So with this fear stems this anti-feminist movement or agenda. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I think there's a large misunderstanding of the word feminism. And even in my class, when I told the guys that this was my topic, they started mocking me.
Yeah, because it's actually this fear is there. It's inherent fear that is stopping them and not making them see the bigger picture.
Yes.
It's about equity. We are not saying that men and women are equal. We are saying that there should be equitable distribution of power, opportunities, a choice that when men and women both can take.
Yes, ma'am.
So a man can be definitely a feminist as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Ma'am, do you believe feminism is still as necessary today as it was in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. There are some legal barriers, and the fight for equity is still continuing in this very deeply seated social, economic, political inequalities. There is gender pay gap still. If you see in simple places like where there is house construction going on, normally it is the men who are being paid, but the men are being supported by their wife, their children, their girls, who are also carrying and doing the same amount of labor but are not being paid. So there are definitely, these issues are there. So violence against women is another thing that we have to take into account as well. That still persists, not just in India but globally as well.
Yes, ma'am. It has improved, but it's not the end of the road yet.
Yeah.
How does gender inequality in India compare to other countries you know about?
Because see, gender issue is mixed with poverty. So economic disparity, gender, there are so many other factors that are mixed, especially when we talk about India. India faces many challenges and it is not ranking very highly when we talk about global indexes, especially when we talk about female labor force participation. There are definitely health and safety concerns that are coming into mind. There is a complex intersection of caste, class, and gender that makes the situation even worse, especially in our country, India.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you for highlighting India's cultural aspects. That
Yeah.
makes patriarchy way harder to be erased in
Yes,
India.
yes.
Do you think our education does enough to teach about gender equality?
No, honestly speaking, no, it falls short. Teaching is limited to these very isolated chapters. There is no practical integration across the curriculum, challenging stereotypes, promoting critical thinking. So, we need to have a more pervasive and normative approach. So,
Yes,
where
ma'am.
it can be applied in real life as well.
Yes, ma'am. I feel that too with my classmates too. And I think schools play a very major role in developing a child's personality and
Yes.
their sense of judgment.
Yes,
We would
yes.
need to work. So, from a historical perspective, what role have women played in fighting against patriarchy in India?
So we have got social reformers like Savitri Bai Phule who fought for the education of girl child. We have definitely some modern feminist movements as well that are challenging dowry, domestic violence. So it's very foundational in its base, but we need to definitely work on it.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks to your great knowledge in history, I am able to understand it.
Yes.
What changes do you hope the next generations will bring when it comes to gender roles?
I hope the next generation is fluid in their approach and thinking, where the individuals have the right to choose their own careers and responsibilities, not because of their gender, but because of their right to choose. So men have to be very present. We are always saying कि ना लड़की को पढ़ाना चाहिए, but हम कहीं ना कहीं we are forgetting that boys also need to be
Yes.
taught about gender disparities. For example, it starts with home, like caregiving, helping in the kitchen, and doing basic domestic life without any stigma attached to it. Even child caring. It should not be just solely a woman's responsibility. A father can be equally, responsible for his own child as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Ma'am, what advice would you give students who want to actively support gender equity in everyday life?
So we have to focus on microaggressions. In just simple words, there are certain subtle microaggressions which amplify these, like jokes made on the wife jokes done by husbands. That needs to stop. This is something that happens almost daily in many houses, urban, especially urban India. We always think it happens in rural, but it is mainly in urban where these microaggressions need to be challenged now in the form of jokes. So we have to amplify marginalized voices of these women and examine the biases and the privileges that men have naturally. So we have to promote equitable sharing of work, especially in group projects or even at home. And it starts small, but it's definitely not an impossible task, but we need to be consistent.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, that's a very rational option. I have seen that in my house too, and when I try to talk about it, they bash me instead that I'm talking too much. So I think that is something that needs to be changed.
Yeah, definitely it can be worked out. But it will take some time, but it can be worked
Yes,
out.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your thoughts. This gave me such a deeper understanding of how feminism and patriarchy connect through both history and everyday life. Your words will definitely add a great value to my project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Vidya.